Welcome to ESI Africa Insights. On this episode, I am joined by Anazi Zote-Piper, who is a content and stakeholder manager for Smarter Mobility Africa. Welcome, Anazi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Anazi, what are you noticing around the adoption of two-wheelers and three-wheelers across Africa?
Yeah, I think two-wheelers are gaining popularity in Kenya, Rwanda, and now we also have Nigeria, who's actually picking up the adoption of electric vehicles. I think this is because the public transport sector is growing, and they are also now comfortable with the transition to NEV, and they notice that it's very affordable and very easy to maintain as well. So you actually see an EV boom in those countries. And I think also now South Africa is also catching on, not lagging far behind when it comes to the adoption of electric motorbikes and scooters.
Thank you so much. So a rapidly evolving adoption of EVs across Africa means, electricity demand will grow. So what do you see as the role of utilities in supporting this growing demand?
Yeah. The one thing that, hinders, this adoption is the charging infrastructure. Okay. Because people are afraid that if they purchase an electric vehicle, that they won't have a place to charge. And they're afraid. It's basically called range anxiety. I would sum it up like that. So this is quite important for us to be here at Inlet Africa as, power meets mobility, #transport. Because without energy, we're unable to transition to more sustainable modes of transport like new energy vehicles. So that is why today it was important to have the conversation of saying, how can utilities basically support this transition? How can they invest in charging infrastructure? How can they increase the distribution network so that we have more charging stations? And maybe this will now build confidence for people to actually be able to charge their cars and purchase, because there is a growing demand, So it's really, really important that we have energy efficiency and we have those utilities basically supporting the transition to electric vehicles. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So what do you think cities should actually consider in their urbanization plans, to meet this growing demand? What should we be doing across Africa?
Yeah. Well, this morning we actually had this conversation and wanted to talk through, we need a strategy. First and foremost, we have a lot of pilots already. One of the speakers was saying we have a lot of pilots that are taking place, but now we actually need to put those pilots, those white papers, that research, we have the data, we need to put it into action. How we're going to do that, we need to change our regulation. We need to move from idea phase to implementation phase. And I think the only way that can happen is if we partner. The private sector and the public sector need to partner together and work together. Where there's a shortage of skills and capacity in utilities, hopefully that's where the private sector can meet those utilities halfway and help them carry out the process. So we really, really need regulation. We need policy drivers. We need utilities to be active in just putting what they've written into practice and partner with the private sector, because the private sector will be able to carry out those services and maintain it. And they have the capacity and they have the resources and they have the money. So, yeah.
So what can we learn from countries like Ethiopia? I know that they put a ban on importing fossil fuel vehicles. What can we learn as other countries across Africa?
I think, as South Africans, we're really, really good with coming up with ideas, and we're really, really good at coming up with plans. But what Ethiopia is very good at is putting those plans into action. Yes. So, you'd see that earlier on this year, they put a complete ban on ICE vehicles. And they followed through with that. They also had incentives, for those who are using electric vehicles and purchasing, and no tariffs on electric vehicles. So those are the type of bold steps that we need to make. And I know that obviously it can be contentious with, our automotive industry at the moment. And obviously our favorite golden five for big five brands. But I think it's really, really important to transition now than to play catch up later. And the one thing that Ethiopia is good at is being an initiator and just going for it and learning along the way.
Anazi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for watching. Tune in for the next video. Have a powerful day.